lovely day!
Welcome to Flat Earth Debate, Uncut and After Show. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you're new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you'd like to support this channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they premiere. There's also a PayPal, Patreon and crypto link in the info box below the video. Now, we're currently joined by Paul and 10th Man. Say a quick hello to both of them. How you doing, Paul? How you doing, 10th Man?
Wonderful. Good morning from California.
Good morning.
Doing pretty good this morning.
Good stuff. I'm going to start smashing the share button. I'm going to start in about 5 or 6 minutes live.
I was thinking while you guys were talking, since we're in the interim show, one thing that our society's done, we've removed ourselves from death in general. Like when somebody, like my father died, he died at home, he was taken to a morgue, and that was it, and nobody was around when it happened. I mean, like even the taking of an animal, we're removed from that as well. Everything's done at a butcher, done somewhere else at other locations. And I wonder if some of this sensitivity to animals is because we've been, in a sense, removed from death, and I wonder if that's been some of it. One of the images I have when I was growing up about my grandmother was, grew up out on the farm and grew out in the country. I remember one time she got a live chicken, grabbed the head in her hand and wrung its neck, and then it landed on its feet after its head had come off its body, and it was running around the yard without a head. I'm like, wow, that's kind of an image I don't know if I'll ever want to get rid of. But I just think that's, So it's like, but we've been removed like from what we eat, and like we've talked, 10th Man, I think a little bit about it. There's humane ways to kill animals and them not to suffer. There's ways to do it.
Yeah, that's for sure, man. I chose to live on the farm my second or third part of my life, and I'm 60 years old now, and I've enjoyed every bit of it. I've had to chase off coyotes, bobcats to protect my animals. I've had to pull out stillborns from lambs and goats who had a second one coming, but both would have died if I wasn't there, with one of my kids holding the mama and me pulling, and you can imagine what that looked like. But the joy in our faces when the second one came out alive. And there's so much to a farm and seeing how life is, and especially if you have many kinds of animals, there's death all the time. You see death every day on the farm, but it's normal. But the society has elevated animals to the level of humans, and this is the problem.
Yeah, it was a really interesting discussion, veganism in scripture. I've heard plenty of veganism discussions, and it's not something that particularly fascinates me. But as soon as it's like related to the Bible, you go, "Wow, this is interesting. How's this going to play out?"
Yeah, good luck finding a verse, especially when
Yeah,
the Lord himself had fish ready on the seashore when the disciples saw him after the resurrection cooking already. And then he was the one telling them, hey, cast your nets on this side of your boat, you catch some fish. I kind of likened it to maybe over there in the Sea of Galilee, they may have a catch and release program we're not aware of.
That's why when Nathan said something about a sin, eating meat's a sin, I'm going like, can you show me that scripture, please? Because I've never read it. Thou shalt not eat meat. That would be a specific command if it was a sin. I was like, nah, I don't see that anywhere.
it's just interesting to see another subcategory abusing the text to meet their own ends, right?
Pun intended, meat.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Good morning, guys.
Hey, chocolate.
Good morning. Good morning.
3 minutes
What's
and we're
up?
starting live.
Jay Chocolate, you're in Georgia, right?
Yeah.
What's the weather like there today?
Today, not bad. It's not too hot. I don't know, it's like 70 degrees.
Okay.
But yeah, it gets pretty warm out here.
Yeah, I've been there a few times. Enjoy your state. Just humid. It's just humid a lot.
Yeah, I know. Just cool because I went a whole winter without dealing with snow or being cold, really. So, bit of a change from coming from New York.
Oh, so you're new there then?
Yeah, definitely new here.
Yeah, snow gets old after a while, huh?
Oh yeah, definitely.
I remember in Boston, all the cars were rusted because of the salt that they had to put on the road each year.
Oh yeah, trust me, I know. I've had cars go through that. A little crazy.
Choco, was you down there when the snow hit down there and gridlocked I forget what road it was, and people were stuck on the road for days and days or hours or days. I don't remember exactly.
No, I wasn't down here yet for that. But I was still in New York, but I did hear about it, which was hilarious to somebody like me from New York, where I've had to drive in like 6 feet of snow. So like the little 1 inch of snow that shut down the whole state was hilarious to me.
Oh, I know. Well, the sad thing, the same thing happens here in Tennessee. We do try to brine the roads or something like that before, or say there's snow coming, but it is funny hearing people. They're like the shelves get cleaned out, all the bread's gone, all the milk's gone, and I'm going like, dude, this snow will be gone in a day or two with a good, because in Tennessee everything warms up and it'll be gone,
Right.
So you're not going to get snowed in for weeks at a time like people up north do. I'm like, please wake up, would you? But right. The other side of the coin is like I live on a hill, and they don't do anything to these back roads, and so I literally can't get out. So there is one couple of exceptions until the sun comes out and melts them to the road. I'm like, no.
Yeah, I hear that.
Anyway.
Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!
Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Live. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you're new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you'd like to join the community debate, then go to nathanoakley.com and check out the Flat Earth Debate Forum. If you'd like to support this channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they're live. There's also a PayPal, Patreon and crypto link in the info box below the video. Most importantly, if you'd like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the shape of the Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel. So please share the show. And one last time, if you're new to the channel or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. Now we are joined by Paul, Chocolate Saying, and 10th Man. Very good to have you all.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Come on, Chocolate, you can do it.
He's at work.
I know. I'll give him a second. No, maybe not. Well, very good to have you all the same. Any signs of Earth curvature?
Not any that I can tell.
Nope, just perspective.
Hey, Arwin.
Boo.
Hello, good to have you.
Nope.
Any signs of axial rotation of the Earth-based variety?
Nope, nope, nope.
Any scientific evidence of gravity?
Nope.
Gravity? What's that?
Some nonsense they made up. Any scientific evidence for the nonsense they made up?
You mean equilibrium?
Is there
equilibrium
evidence
would
that
be
they made
the
up this
actual...
nonsense? Yes. There's definitely evidence that they made up gravity.
Yes, there's plenty of evidence that they made up nonsense. You're always right on cue to point that out, Arwin. And there's always evidence of the presupposition. We'll get there too. Any evidence of a self-perpetuating molten iron core at the centre of a presupposed spherical Earth?
No. Too many presuppositions in that sentence.
Indeed. What about the distance to the sun? Any evidence of that?
Light in the sky.
Yeah, there's no
You mean the
confirmed
apparent
measured
sun?
distance to the sun.
What was that, Paul?
You mean the apparent sun, or the apparent position, or the apparent something or other?
Yeah, the apparent size of the apparent position of the sun. Yeah, they like to talk about the apparent size and how it doesn't change. Apparent size being not actual size. So the not actual size of the sun doesn't change as it moves to its not actual position. How do you explain that on a flat Earth? I don't. It's nonsense.
Well, you actually don't.
No. You're right, I don't. I have no idea what the sun is or how far it
They
is.
should change the word from actual to potential. Then they have at least a little wiggle room.
Potential position of the sun. It's potentially there. Might not be though.
No, but then you would suggest that it actually could be there. And I don't
But we
think
get
that's
to
the
use
case.
the word actual.
But that's very unlikely to be the case, or there would be more evidence. Like approachability, actual angular size change, all that.
Well, I was just tying that to, I believe, what Aristotle said about actuality and potentiality. Just having some fun.
You say the actual angular size would change? Because that's a contradiction in terms right there.
Yeah. That's that.
Any
Rick.
evidence that we can have gas pressure, like we all breathe, you know, we're all quite accustomed to breathing gas pressure, air. Any evidence that you can have said gas pressure without the necessary antecedent of a container for it to press upon, for all the fundamentalists who believe in the vacuum of the sky, otherwise known as outer space?
Well,
No.
maybe if the outer space wasn't actually a vacuum and just pretty much normal air like we know, and it all worked differently. Like, for example, the orbits of planets and suns were not guided by gravity falling, but, for example, on some weird magnetic reel that would keep the momentum going and prevent the friction from it all standing still. Then maybe in that conceptualized outer space, which would be outer gas model, it could work. It's something that I've been thinking upon.
So if it was absolutely nothing like the current rhetoric and what they tell 90% of
Yes.
the Western world, then you might have an explanation. That's handy.
And it would be very cool. There's like old cartoons, science fiction, fantasy cartoons that entertained this, where the people would be literally sailing in space, standing on ships in the open gas universe, and that really struck my mind back then. It's like, wow, what is this? Could it be?
Check it out. Super Curve says, pressure requires a surface. Gas does not. So what, gas is not pressure? Wow. We have some real dumbos in the audience today. Shout out to you, Super Curve. Last but not least, any evidence of the R value?
Evidence
No.
of the R value?
Hey, Sleeping Warrior.
Are we live?
We are live.
Have I missed house?
What is the actual value of R?
That should answer your question, Anthony.
Roadkill.
We're still on house.
Yeah, we're just on the last question. Did you have something for any of the others? It's still open if you wanted to address any of the other questions in housekeeping, Anthony. If you've got something special.
No. I'm waiting nicely. I'll wait till it's finished because I've got something excellent.
Unless anybody's got any evidence of R, we are done. Anybody got any evidence of R?
Hold on, I might have some. Let me dig it up.
I think we'll be
Arwen's
waiting a long
got
time, Arwen.
potential R.
Yeah. Let me present my screen. Give you.
Whenever you're ready, I'll present you, Arwen.
All right, there you
oh,
Hey,
oh.
Hey, that looks like that NASA head guy there.
So what's going to be left of the proof of R?
What it is now. Just zombies coming in telling us that R is real. Right, I think that concludes the housekeeping. Thank you very much indeed, all who took part. Did you have something to present, Anthony?
Not really present. It's something it's somewhat verbal to present because I want to judge some reaction. Do we all remember the great fraudster that is known as Greater Sapien?
Oh, yeah.
Do you remember his claim was that he was going to do a north-south, was it north-south-north or south-north-south or whatever it was? He was going to get a plane and he was going to fly and he was going to prove north to south orbit, rotation of north to south traveling of the planet, right?
Sure, he's going to
We all
do. He was going to
remember.
do a.
Supposedly, yes.
He was going to do a Michael Palin, right? Pole to pole.
Sorry, say that again.
He was going to do north-south circumnavigation, like pole to pole.
Yes. Well, do you remember the value was 20 grand?
That he ripped off, that he gathered and never spent because it all got cancelled,
Yeah.
right? Yeah, I seem to vaguely remember 20 grand being the figure.
Yeah. Well, me and Spurs had a conversation this morning, and Spurs is saying, what would be the one thing that we could do that would absolutely settle this one way or another? And for me, I said, well, to be honest with you, Spurs, the only one thing that I can think we could do would be to fly over the South Pole and come back up the other side and prove that we've basically proved the journey. So he was like, but they'll never accept it because how do we measure it? How do we show the path that we've done? And I said, well, maybe we don't have to. And he said, well, what do you mean? And I said, well, if you fly from South America and you end up in the western coast of Australia, at least according to Google Earth, you are literally flying underneath the ball. You've got to be on the western side of Australia. You can't turn up on the east. It's got to be on the west because you pass over the apparent South Pole. So me and Spurs were talking, and he says, I don't think that even if the flight could happen, I don't think that anybody would ever accept it because we can't prove the path. And I said, well, let's just see if the flight is possible. So what I've done is I've rang a chartered airplane supplier in America, and I spoke to a lovely guy called Stefan, and I've got an email price off him for that journey. Now, I don't remember exactly what Greater Sapiens trip was, but I do remember it was 20 grand. Now, for 20 grand, based on the price that this guy's given me, 20 grand's not even going to get you anywhere. 20 grand is nowhere near enough. I rang this bloke today and I looked up a particular jet. I wanted to know what the longest range jet was that was capable. I don't mean a jumbo. I mean like a Learjet type thing, like a private chartered plane.
And
I wanted to know what the longest flight duration is for these planes.
Hold on, Anthony.
And then I found a company that
can you hear me?
That they could subcontract them in. And then I rang them for a price.
Shut up, Riley.
And basically, he said, where do you want to go from? Where do you want to go to?
Hello.
And
shut up, Riley.
Sniper on deck. Now we've got a sniper on deck. Okay. Anthony, you've got verbal diarrhea. For some reason, you can't hear us.
We wanted to know dates and time.
Anthony, can you not hear us? Just had two people come in. One of them a sniper, so we'll probably lose the whole panel now. Ugh. We still got the panel here. Oh, well done, Anthony. Ugh. Welcome to the show. Where you don't know. No, you don't know. Could be the work of but a moment. I totally blame Anthony for that. Hello, 10th man.
Hello. Was it something we said?
Yeah, everything we say.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, that's awesome.
I'll wait till I get a couple more guests back before I share the link publicly again.
I think it could have been that person you were responding to, possibly, with the question that was weird at the beginning.
Well, hopefully a few of our guests will rejoin.
Arwen just said on Skype, it says too many redirects.
Say again?
Arwen typed in and it said, link isn't work. Wait a minute. Arwen says, too many redirects. Paul just typed in saying link isn't working, but it worked for me.
Okay, no worries. I'll just try again.
Oh, they're on.
Are we back?
Yeah.
Yeah, we're still live and everything. It doesn't actually affect the flow of the show that much. Costs me 2 minutes of faffing around, that's all.
Nathan, when you put that in there, if you like everything past, if you remember everything past the GB, take out of the link and it'll work.
Yeah, I just forgot
See that in the address.
Yeah, I forgot to take the share link from the Hangout itself rather than the address at the top of the page. Welcome back, Arwen.
You managed to sneak in under the radar and kick everyone.
A sniper on deck.
You wouldn't shut up. Nathan asked you like 4 times. I yelled at you and you didn't shut up. Like, did you put everything else on mute and just stop having dialogue for 5 minutes nonstop?
Yeah, I must have muted the wrong thing. I didn't realize I was being shouted at.
You were, yeah.
It's hilarious.
It was quite funny. Right, has one of you got the back chat open now?
No.
Not yet.
Good job, I asked.
It takes a while.
I'll open it up.
Right, let me know when you're all armed and ready, and I'll sit the link out for public again. Hey,
I've got it. Go.
Okay, cool. Did have a new guest that just joined, so that if you want to refresh your page, if you're in the live hangout, you can rejoin now.
Yeah, hello.
Hey, Chocolate.
Yo.
So where were you, Anthony?
I don't know. I don't know where it was when I got kicked.
I'm in the back chat. So
you were talking about the guy, and you were at the point where it was going to be a lot more than 20,000 based on your research.
That was for one ticket, just so you know. So there was another organizer who arranged the trip, and one ticket was 20 grand, or it wasn't even that much. It was somebody else. Hey, CG, can you hear us?
speak up immediately. I think he's.
No, it wasn't.
Hey guys, I'm here.
Okay, good. Thanks for saying hello quickly.
Yeah, I've got it up now as well.
So yes, you were saying about the 20 grand that he'd raised. Hey, Billy Wazzer. Hey, Warren.
Oh yeah.
Hello.
Hey. Hello.
Brenda's trying to join.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I bet she
I'm
is.
going to be able whilst I'm in beast mode.
Good.
Sorry, Brenda.
Yay.
You shouldn't have deleted them videos, Brenda, that you're unrepentant for.
And you shouldn't lie to everyone's face like a 6-year-old when you get caught out being an idiot.
So what was the amount then for a chartered flight, pole to pole?
Right. So basically, me and Spurs had a conversation. I decided to make a few phone calls to see if I could actually get somebody to price me. King Benson.
Oh, who was that?
Hey, King.
Hello.
Hello. Good to have you.
So cutting a long story short, I needed specifically this plane because it had a big enough tank to be able to get the distance required for the amount of fuel that's going to get burnt along the way. So I rang up this company and I said, and they're based in America, and I said, right, this is what I need from A to B somewhere in November, because I needed to do it no more than 6 months in advance. And he said, okay. He basically went away and he said, how much luggage are you bringing? And I said, like, not that much. He said, okay. He said, if you got less luggage, you can have more people. He said, you can have up to like 12. He said, if you bring proper luggage, like you need somewhere to put the luggage. He said, you can only have like up to 8. I said, we'll take less luggage. And he said, okay. cutting a long story short, the bottom line is so the cost it is to literally hire a jet to do the journey from South America over to Perth is $312,000. That's to hire the plane, fly there, and fly back. It's 13 hours flight there, 13 hours flight back. It's a long journey, right? It's considered to be business class with toilets and all that. But my point is that it works out if there's 12 people on it, $26,000, right? Which is a lot of money for the average Joe Blogs. I get it, but I also think it's not that much money in the bigger scheme of things. If we're able to demonstrate this journey can even happen. Obviously, our position is that this journey can't even happen, as Greater Sapient demonstrated. For whatever magical reason, it'll get stopped. But it would be interesting to see if it did actually happen, because the flight, the maximum range on that plane is set to basically the journey that we're on. If we're on a flat plane, it can't go any longer. There isn't a long. You can't get that distance because the continent's distance between them is huge. So on a
Dan Ice, how you doing? Hello.
Are you there, Dan Ice?
Say hello.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, it's okay. He's there. Yeah, so obviously, if the Earth's a flat plane, then you're probably not going to be able to do this journey. But we're saying on the ball Earth side, you can do the journey. So if the journey does actually happen, and they take off in South America and they end up in Perth, there is only one way it can be done.
No, it's not true. That's only if you presuppose the disk flat Earth, Nathan. Or Riley, that's
well. Would you agree that you couldn't fly from South America to Australia on a flat plane within the tank range?
No idea.
Yes, you could. Yes, you can. On the rectangular looping model, it's very easy. It's just a straight line.
Yeah, but you'd have to go over South Africa, wouldn't you?
No, South Africa is higher up. It's closer to the equator.
You wouldn't go over snow-capped lands, would you? That you would reasonably describe as Antarctica.
You wouldn't need to.
We're all pissing in the wind. None of us know what the continents are laid out like.
Sure,
right, but there are several possibilities, and the disk only makes it impossible. A regular, like how the map is presented to us, basically.
So
then
what I'm
it can just be a straight line.
What I'm getting at is, as far as I can see, it would be impossible for that plane with the tank size that it has to fly for more than the length of time that it can fly and get into Australia if the Earth's flat, because the distance between that and a ball is significantly different. Whatever that distance is, it's significantly different. But because it's right on the limit on a sphere, and we know that apparently their model tells us predictions about distance, and we know that if that plane's pretty much at its limit, it doesn't give a lot of leeway for that plane to do much other than go over a ball. But at least on a ball, the flight is possible. So what I'm curious to know is, if there was 12 seats available on this jet and it was 25 grand a seat, I don't expect people that are the average me and Nathan kind of people to put their hands in their pockets and pull up 25 grand. But would there be any interest if there were 12 seats available to do this flight, to shut this conversation down if it's wrong? Because basically it's only possible on a sphere, right? If we had, say, 6 flat earthers and 6 ball earthers, for example, on tickets to do that journey, would it? And it was basically lined up to happen. If the journey did happen and the plane landed in Perth, for me, that would show that unless the landmasses just coincidentally happen to be on a flat plane and close to each other, that journey would be impossible on a plane.
On a disc.
On a disc.
Right. On a disc. Very specifically a disc. Yeah.
On a disc. But if it's not a disc, then it's only possible on a ball.
It's bollocks. So you're literally going to formulate this into an affirming the consequent? No, just means the continents aren't where you show me the real map. Show me where they actually are then, Anthony. Then I'll agree with you.
Well, what I'm thinking is, if we can get to a point where we can agree that not necessarily we as in this panel, but the community as a whole, if we can get to a point where we can agree that this is only possible on a sphere.
No, it's not. How many times do we have to say this, Riley? Stop presenting this false dichotomy to me, Riley.
Agree with him.
There are more options, one of which I just explained.
We don't have a map, Tony.
I'll say that this can't happen on a disc or a rectangular Earth because of the distances involved.
No,
Right,
it
but
can.
saying that it can only
on
work on a sphere
rectangular Earth.
is...
You obviously have no idea what that is.
Riley, I kind of missed the parameters of this flight. Where is it going again? What is it again?
From that Ushuaia in South America over to the western coast, the southwestern coast of Australia. And the only way that I can see that's possible is on a sphere.
On
now,
a
if that
sphere
flight
model
was
with
to
the
take off-
continents laid out the way they've shown you on a sphere model. Not on a sphere. We can't possibly live on a sphere.
I know. So therefore, the flight can never take place. The flight will always cancel at some point for some reason, won't it?
Shout out to...
But here's another problem.
Bear. Thank you for the super chat.
You forget one other problem with it too, Riley, is the Antarctic Treaty, that you can't travel below the...
I
know,
agree
but I'm
with
just
what
saying,
you're
but
saying, but
that's
it's not
another
my
problem.
problem if they're quoting me to do that
show
journey.
The map? You want me to show to you?
I've got something to say about the Antarctic Treaty.
Why it's not that difficult?
So there's a couple of stories of people being stopped. What is it, the 60th parallel or something? Where does it start? Where's the demarcation line for the Antarctic Treaty? Anybody?
Right, I get this point. I understand this point. My point is that if they price it, it's not our problem to deal with the Antarctic Treaty. What I mean is, if they have to cancel it because of it, then we'll say, then you can't fly over the globe, can you? Because they've said that they can do it, and they've provided me with a quote, which he's sending me on email, and I don't mind presenting it if I get it whilst we're live. But if that trip then fails for some reason, then there needs to be a reason for that, doesn't there? And who cares what the reason is? But if that trip fails, then they can't do it.
Okay. Is my screen presented? Or Riley, are you looking?
Hang on.
Yeah, you're presented. Got the gold Peters up.
So, a pretty basic conceptualization of the rectangular looping map. So, this is kind of literal. So, this is sort of to scale.
Hold on one
as
second,
in
Darwin.
It's not
Sorry.
being warped
Hey,
or
new guest.
presupposed
Can you
around
hear
a
us?
circle.
Hello, new guest. Strange writing. Hear us?
Gonna have to go, Nathan.
I'm gonna kick him.
Yeah, just kick him.
Okay, so look at this map. So, can you see my mouse pointer also?
Yeah, you're on the Gauss-Peterson projection, right?
Right. This is the rectangular looping map. The best way to represent it that I can find. So here you go in a straight line from east or from west to east. Boom.
Right.
Argentina. You bypass South Africa. You can even go past the ice wall.
Right,
and
but
then
listen,
circle back.
would you agree that you
how
wouldn't
deep
go
would
over
you
the
have
ice?
to go in order to fool the people that you're actually going straight through over a circle?
Arwen, would you agree that you wouldn't go? Arwen, listen, would you agree you're not going to go over the ice if you go that way?
You could, partially.
But then you're going to add. Then you're going to run out of fuel.
You could go a little bit further south and then travel again, still laterally, horizontally.
Yeah, but listen.
Yeah, parallel to the equator, and then travel over the ice. As long as you don't see the sea to your left while you're doing it, you could fool your people, the public in the plane, that you're actually traveling straight over the disk island continent, as proposed.
Right, listen. Let me put it to you this way: the plane's got a limited range; it can't go beyond too much because you're pushing it. You're right on the limits anyway when you've got that distance on a ball, right? But if you're going to suggest that they can deviate to fool you, right, you haven't got the range in the tank to be able to do that with confidence, knowing that you're going to run out of fuel because you're literally just getting there on fumes.
I don't know how far this would be to make a circle like this. I don't know.
It's 10,000, just over 10,000 kilometers, the way they tell us on a sphere, right? 10,000
and how about
10,200 kilometers. And it's only got a range of 11,000 kilometers. So you've only got like 700 or 800 kilometers play. Not that much.
Okay, let's see. This is let's see. Talk about distances. This is to scale. So I'm gonna count a square, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 15. Let's just say 15 squares. Okay, over here, that's between California, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, right? 11, 12, 15. Yeah, that would be halfway around the world. I don't know. from California, could you go directly to Turkey? They'd probably stop somewhere along the way, but could a plane go there? If they could make that distance, then they could probably make the distance from Argentina to Australia over the ice. They'd probably need extra fuel tanks or whatever.
Well, this is the extended range.
Flights.
This is the extended range version of this plane, and it's the longest one that's out there. And
right.
So yeah, let me. If I share my screen, Nathan.
Sure. Proves nothing. I don't know why we're arguing about it, but feel free.
Possibilities.
So
while you guys are sharing that screen, I just wanted to mention, like, if you guys are chartering a flight, you guys can actually go up into the cockpit and ensure that the pilot's not deviating anything. I'm a globe earther, and I would be willing to donate to your guys' thing to like help you guys do this. I don't got much money, but I would be willing to watch a flat earther, right, be in the cockpit as the pilot not only is planning this flight, but actually navigating across in a straight line across Antarctica from the western coast of Australia and do that. Like, if you're charting a flight, you can do that.
Yeah. Now, my point is that if you look at it on what they tell us is their model, that's not their model, but is their model, but it's not. Then you've got the southern tip of South America, and then you have to fly over ice for a significant portion of it, and you're very close to that South Pole. And then when you pop out the other side, you're in Perth. That's pretty much the nearest point to Australia. And it says on their projection, that's not really a projection, it is 10,800 kilometers, right, to get you into Perth International. Now, 10,800 kilometers. So just remember that, because when you go to the details for this particular plane, this is the G650 is whatever it's called, but the extended range, that's what that stands for. You've got it's got the maximum range. This is like this is the maximum range when it's empty is 13,890 kilometers. But that's not when it's fully laden. When you've got it fully laden, you take some off, because he said to me, if you're taking all these passengers and you're taking all luggage, that'll come down because you'll use more fuel. He said that's when it's unladen. So whatever that value is, take a little bit off it. So it goes from 13,890. I don't know what it'll go down to, but if you compare it to the overall distance, it's 13,800. You've got 3,000 kilometers, which gives you a distance of about 13,800. So he doesn't actually work it on distance; he works it on flight time. 13 hours is the maximum duration, he says, and he reckons that will take 13 hours. And I don't necessarily disagree with him. But what if this isn't far enough?
Do they mention average cruising speeds?
Yeah.
Right. So they do.
So the cruise speed is saying 900 kilometers an hour. So we could do some maths on this to work this, and we could basically cherry pick to get the right blend of which airport because we don't necessarily have to fly from the one further south. We could probably do it somewhere like, I don't know whether you get further up here, but to push the limits, as long as it's within the duration of where that plane can actually fly according to the specs that they tell us, then we can probably extend that out so we don't have to go as extreme. But my point is that you've got to fly over the ice. Now, for Arwin's claim, which is, I get it, you'd have to fly. You wouldn't go over the ice on the Mercator project or the Gauls-Peterson projection, right? It would just be over water all the way.
No, that's not true. It can be over the ice. You just don't go that far south. I just explained that to you. Just go a little bit into just beyond the ice wall, as it were, and then you move. To the east straight over the ice. But yeah, as long as you don't see the sea to your left, you could just fool your public that you're going straight over the ice cap. And then
not if you're in a charter flight.
I'm not so sure. Well, anyway, my point is that if I get this...
Do you understand what I just said, please?
Yeah, you're saying take a deviation round this way, right? A straight line on a Gauls-Peterson projection, but a non-great circle route on a ball, right?
And you just move over just beyond the ice wall.
Right, I'm going to interrupt to do some shout outs. So, No Proof, thank you very much for the super chat. Earth is Seriously Flat, thank you also for the super chat. And a big shout out to Trish Blythe for smashing the super chat. Really appreciate all of your support. Thank you very much indeed.
Can I put a little intermission and then let these guys go at it again?
If you like. I'm tired of it, if I'm honest.
Okay, yeah. Here's the deal. If you're going to do this, you better have a pregnant lady on board that's giving birth, all right? Second, if this was possible, the military has already done it with refueling aircraft in place, and they would be showing us those pictures. But since there is no space and they show us phony globes, again, we don't know what the Earth looks like.
I agree, but wouldn't that be our point, that this flight would never ever be able to take place?
Well, because it's called Disappearance of Malaysia Flight 370, Anthony. I ain't getting on that thing.
What you mean that you think they might actually bring the plane down?
You
Well,
started
what do you
this.
think? What do you think if it was actually going to happen and was broadcast?
In that case, then, we open it up to the globe earthers and we put Jeremy on it and Mark Taylor and all them lot. Stick them on the plane, and if they come back the other side, we know it's a globe.
It's already been done, though, right? You started this conversation by saying that Greater Sapien had attempted to book a flight for 20 grand that he raised along with a load of other people, and it didn't take place. So, what do you want?
Yeah, but he claims he was a victim of a scam, though, doesn't he?
Right. Well, that's the point, isn't it? Somebody like you has gone and chartered a flight, arranged for it to be done, raised the funds, and then it hasn't taken place. That's exactly the scenario we're left with. Now, regardless of the reasons that Greater Sapien claims, it didn't happen.
Yeah, so I guess what the question then would be, well, what would be the point in doing it again and just getting scammed again? But this is what I was going to. This is why I said, like, basically, if we were to put the money somewhere in a trust account, a solicitor's trust account, so it was paid from our point, but they hadn't taken it, we would always get the money back, and that would be protected. But I accept your point. Should we not just say that Greater Sapien tried to do it and he couldn't do it?
Yeah, because that's absolutely factually accurate.
Because that's the same as like Sly Sparkane failing to demonstrate the curvature of the Earth with his pipes test. He's not got it. Sly Sparkane did a pipes test, couldn't measure the curvature of the Earth, blamed whatever it was. Not sure what the blame was, but he blamed something, and he failed to demonstrate the curvature of the Earth.
Another pipe dream.
If all the stories...
Maybe he should just blame the lack of curvature. What the hell?
That's what I said to him. He said that there was anomalies. I was like, well, how many anomalies do there need to be before it becomes mathematically impossible for there to be curve? I said, you can have one more go with it, and if you don't get that curve, then it's not curved.
Another shout out to Earth is Seriously Flat for hitting the super chat. Thank you very much for all your support.
Sorry, Nathan?
Just shouting out to super chatter, that was all.
The only way to prove
we do have a baller on the panel. We might want to talk to him about his proof of all this.
The only way to prove it positive is to fly to within sight of the Antarctic and then try and fly along the coast of it, seeing it.
No, you'd have to fly over it. You'd have to fly over it on the coast.
No. If you get to within sight of the Antarctic, which they don't allow you to do anyway, but that's the only way you can prove it positive is to get within sight of it and then fly in a straight line and see if you have to go veer left or veer right. If you veer right, it means you're on a globe. If you veer left, it means you're on a globe. If you veer right, it means you're flat.
No,
that's the only way you can do it. You can't go from one country to another because we don't know the distances, do we?
Right, veering left means flat, veering right means globe. No, it doesn't.
Yeah, it does.
Oh, right. So the planes and their directions, it's not dictated by where the land is, it's dictated by whether or not we're spherical. Yeah, right.
Well, if you're on the coast, say you're flying along the coast of the Antarctic is at the bottom of the ball, and you'll always have to fly west, but you'll always have to veer left, wouldn't you?
Not on a ball.
Wouldn't you? You'd have to veer left all the time to go around the Antarctic on the bottom of the ball.
But nobody's doing that, and we seem to be going around in circles. Nobody's done it. It was arranged to be done by a globe head. It didn't happen.
Yeah, but that was a pole to pole, wasn't it?
We're not going in circles. You're going in a straight line.
Oh, none of us know the layout. That's where this starts and ends. So.
I was just kidding. Sorry.
That was a pole to pole flight. You can do a pole to pole flight. It wouldn't prove nothing, would it?
Let me pose a question. You can get on a sailboat from California. There's plenty of YouTube videos, and go to Hawaii on an independent journey. And you see these Atlantic crossings from Europe to America as well. But we never see anything down to the so-called South Pole and around, or to go around. No one's able to do that. No one's able to video that. No one's able to get permission to do that. As Paul said, the Antarctic Treaty is in place for a reason. They don't want us to know something. East to west all day long, north to south.
Hey, I gotta.
I mean, if you think about it, they had this one big chance to have this, fantastic pole-to-pole flight, and it turned out to be a big joke. Even
but it also goes down as a failure to prove the globe, right? Because it's like when Sly does this. When Sly does his test, if he doesn't show that curvature, then he fails to show curvature for whatever reason. Doesn't matter what the reason is, he's failed to demonstrate the curve. Greater Sapien failed to demonstrate that flight can take place. The flight failed. It was predicted. Taboo Conspiracy said that flight will never happen, and I think that's the same what would happen here. For whatever reason, it will not happen.
I do have to interject here that the Antarctic Treaty is appealing to conspiracy, which is a logical fallacy. Like, you guys can make the claim, but it's not actually proof of anything. Right?
Oh, really? So it's not a conspiracy.
You guys say something didn't happen.
Sorry, I think it falls under the category conspiracy when all world governments conspire not to allow anyone to go there.
Didn't hear the end of the claim. I didn't hear the end of the claim. So, CG, can you make what was your claim again?
But there are people who go there, and it's appealing to conspiracy to say they don't.
Go where?
To Antarctica.
Well, they say they go to Antarctica. We don't know the layout. We don't know where they're going.
They go south of Argentina. That specific spot. That's it. Just one spot.
Yeah, but it's appealing to conspiracy to say that we don't know where they're going. We do know where they're going. We can track their location. We can see them. We can see videos. Like, you have to build a conspiracy, which is a logical fallacy, around the fact that you claim that we don't know.
You mean?
No, that's not true. The Antarctic Treaty is a conspiracy because it's a world government. All governments conspire to do that, to make it like that, to not allow people to explore Antarctica.
You mean we could see videos of people on the moon?
Yes, and denying the moon landing is also appealing to conspiracy. There's evidence. You just have to deny the evidence to say.
No.
Now you're really joking.
Calling out that
hold on. You're saying it's conspiracy to not believe that they travelled through a second law of thermodynamics violation. That's not conspiracy.
No,
that's a natural. I hadn't quite finished. I stopped them from over talking you, CG, but I hadn't quite finished my point. So that's not a conspiracy. That's a natural law.
So that's moving the goalpost, Nathan. But what I am saying is that
not moving the goalposts. I'll say it again. Let me say it nice and slowly, nice and clearly. Nobody's travelling through the vacuum of the sky. There is no vacuum of the sky. If there was, we wouldn't be breathing, CG. That's not moving the goalposts. It's saying that the narrative where the moon landings take place is a sky vacuum. Now, sky vacuum is like Narnia. It's not real. Now, if you want to prove that we can have a sky vacuum, I might believe that something took place in it. But until you can prove that there's a natural law being violated in the sky, then no, they're not going to a vacuum, my friend. That's not moving the goalposts. It's the demolition of space.
Well, here's the thing. So going back to Antarctica, right? So we don't get too far off track here. Going back to Antarctica, you have to appeal to conspiracy to say that they don't let us go there. Like, it's appealing to anonymous authority.
Excuse me.
You guys say.
Are you denying the Antarctic Treaty?
Hold up.
No, but this is a direct.
Hold on, I can't shut him up when he talks over me and stop. Arwin. Hold on.
Let me say my sentence.
Go ahead, Craig.
So the thing is that you're saying you have to appeal to conspiracy and anonymous authority, right? By saying something like the world governments say that we can't go there. Like, there are people who go there. There's evidence that they go there. We have video, we have eyewitness testimony of literally thousands of people, right? And we have circumnavigation maps that show that you can get there, that anybody can get there.
One
right?
specific spot. That's right. One location.
So what?
The magnetic South Pole.
No, not the magnetic South Pole, idiot. It's on
No
the
need,
edge
no need.
of Antarctica, south of, Argentina. There. That's the spot you can go to.
So
Nobody
what?
goes
So
beyond.
what?
I'm trying
What-
to
who
wonder,
cares?
is appealing
Nobody's
to
there.
is appealing to conspiracy a real thing? Is that like a fallacy?
No, I
mean,
agree with the sentiment, actually.
Appealing to conspiracy, yes, is a fallacy.
I agree with
It's
his sentiment.
ridiculous.
He's saying we're claiming a piece of paper stops us. Well, no, I don't buy that. So, in one form or another, I agree with him.
Well, if you make a claim, that's fine, but then you have to provide evidence that there really is some type of plan to keep people from going to Antarctica.
Yeah, there is.
There's no
The Antarctic Treaty does exist under UK law. I can show you it.
Yeah, but there are tons of people who go to Antarctica. So then you have to say
Well,
those
hang on.
thousands of people are
To
then
one
in the
location
conspiracy.
again. It's not about
Hang on.
touching the continent. It's about not being able to explore all of it and have mining and commercial activities. That's what it's about. Doesn't mean that you can never go to any of it. No, there's one spot where people can go. Very cut off. You can't go beyond a certain point. It's not.
I
very
Well,
believe-
so that's
I-
factually incorrect. You
No,
can't
that's
I
not
believe-
go to
factually
multiple
incorrect.
spots.
I believe
Oh, where?
that, Arwen, I believe that it was Jeranism, I may be wrong, it could have been someone else, who did an actual show on this that showed that you can go to this body of government for your first step for permission. Then they send you to this next body of government for your second step. And the thing was so bureaucratic. And by the time you paid all the fees, it was in the hundreds of thousands of dollars. And you couldn't take certain things there. And it was all set up to deter people from ever doing it.
Yep.
So this guy who's on the panel here, he has a point, but he hasn't done his research to realize it's just make-believe to make you think you can go.
Sorry, but he's using conspiracy in a very bad new colloquial way.
No,
because
in the real sense of
conspiracy
what
is technically a conspiracy. People conspiring to do something, to decide something for secret reasons potentially, but they do it for a reason. And that's a
Well,
conspiracy.
Yeah,
So
but what
if there
I'm
is
saying is you guys
contracts
are appealing to
worldwide
it as an argument.
contracts for the Antarctic Treaty, that's a confirmed conspiracy.
It's a hand wave to shut people off and make you look like you're crazy loony when you use the word conspiracy.
Okay, so Tin Man, that exact idea, that's the appeal to conspiracy logical fallacy that I'm pointing out right now.
Wait a minute.
Right? It's not,
Wait a
it's,
minute.
of course
Appeal.
there's the Antarctic Treaty.
Wait a minute. Wait a minute. First of all, I can't hear you too well, so I apologize. But an appeal
Sorry.
an appeal to conspiracy, you're going to have to be a little bit more factual than that. Nathan said you can't have gas pressure without a container. It's a violation of second law. Right? Did you hear
That's
that?
what Nathan said. That's what
Yeah.
Nathan
Now,
said.
do you?
Yes.
But hang on. Do you believe in the laws of nature? First and second law of thermodynamics.
What do you mean? Do I believe in the second law of thermodynamics? What do
Well,
you
do you believe that there's natural laws in place with nature? For example, entropy. Do you believe in entropy?
Do I
You know
believe
what it is.
Do I believe that entropy can describe some processes that we see? Yes.
No. Okay. So what is entropy? Describe entropy in your terms.
I mean, you just quoted it, the second law of thermodynamics, the fact that a gas, if it introduced into a perfect system, right, theoretical, a perfect system that is a vacuum will disperse into the vacuum.
Okay. So why, when I say that the governments that you are saying have all these things in place and people go and it's not off limits, why can't I just turn your argument around and say that they, using invalid evidence violating the second law of thermodynamics, are telling us we can go into a vacuum in space, the sky vacuum? Why is that not a conspiracy?
Well, you can't turn it around because it's a sine qua non logical fallacy, right? I don't have to prove the inverse of something to make your point true.
No, but if the second law says a vacuum can't exist next to gas pressure, and then the governments are saying yes it can, what say you?
I think what you're trying to do right now is
No,
trying
just
to say-
answer the question. If the Queen of England and Donald Trump say today, and put the China guy too. If the governments of the world say, look, there's a vacuum and we got gas pressure next to it, are you going to believe them when you know the second law says, you know what? I think these people are crazy.
No, well, specifically what the second law says, I mean, I know Nathan really likes to quote it, but the deal is that the second law says that in a perfect system, a gas will distribute into a vacuum, in a closed system, more specifically, right? Well,
right, but we
the vacuum. Excuse me, hold up. The vacuum, as described, right, by NASA, for example, right, which you guys have to appeal to conspiracy to also discount that too, is not a closed system by any means. In fact, it's the definition of an open system.
Yeah,
right?
So entropy would be more likely to take effect. The fact that they describe it in an isolated system for simplicity of explanation doesn't mean it doesn't apply to an open system, you bonehead.
The Tor value at sea level is just above 700. The Tor value of Mount Everest is 28,000. The Tor value in a vacuum of space is 10 to the minus 17 Tor. Where is the barrier?
Hold on. So let me just get something clear with you, CG. Because the second law is described to be in an isolated system, do you feel that it only applies to isolated systems?
No, it doesn't only apply to isolated.
Oh, right. So it applies equally well to open systems then?
That's a logical fallacy there.
It's a statement of fact. Entropy applies.
No.
Open or closed, it applies.
No, actually, that's the difference. So open and closed are very different systems. The laws of thermodynamics are there for us to help calibrate base calculations so that we can make inferences in non-closed systems, right? So we can generally describe
non-closed. That would be open.
Yes. So what happens when you get an open system is that
no worries.
other laws kick
no worries.
in,
No worries. So you're saying an open system is capable of having gas pressure next to a vacuum. That's what you're saying.
If there are multiple forces acting on it, of course.
So show me that, please.
Show you that?
Are you deaf?
The forces.
Why would you say it with an upward inflection like that's horrifying or like that's somehow surprising that I would ask you to prove the shit that you're spouting? Yeah, if you want to claim gas can exist in an open system next to a vacuum, show me.
If there are multiple forces acting on it,
yeah. I don't care what your caveat is. Show it me.
No. Well, hold up. If you're going to invoke the laws of thermodynamics,
multiple forces,
then you have to. And then also I get drilled about the idea like, oh, don't you accept natural laws? Then we have to say, okay, if we're going to work on a real system, an open one, and not a closed one that the second law of thermodynamics helps us give a base of, then we have to work with all of the laws. You don't get to just cherry pick. Okay, I like the second law.
Sorry, I'm sick of this. Why are you giving me this long-winded word salad, Arwin? Why are you giving me this long-winded word salad rather than just showing proof of your claim? Your claim being that gas can exist in an open system next to a vacuum. Now prove it. Don't give me word salad about what I've cherry-picked. It's a natural law. That law dictates that the gas would fill the space. So you're saying it's not the case. Now show us.
But Nathan, he's not even cherry-picking.
Not you, Arwin. Not you, Arwin.
Sure, the space shuttle re-entering the atmosphere. So it was in
the space shuttle re-entering the atmosphere. So you're assuming. Sorry. No. Stop. Don't go to your bloody priests. How dare you? So you're saying that the space shuttle was in a vacuum, was it?
It was in a pretty darn close to a vacuum situation.
No, it wasn't. That's my point. No, it wasn't. That violates a natural law, CG. No, it wasn't. That's why we're saying it doesn't happen that way. That's why they don't go to the moon. That's our argument for why they aren't re-entering from a vacuum. So to say that they are, that's... Craig, can you stop talking? Yeah, Craig, there's a very specific claim. Now, let's not talk about what your priests do and that we are very specifically debunking in this. We're saying, no, they don't go to the moon in shuttles because you can't have a vacuum next to pressure. Now, you're saying you can, and your evidence of it is the thing we're debunking with that statement. No. We would like an example. Why are you talking over me? Why are you giving me word salad?
That's
shut up then.
Could you stop repeating the same fallacy again and
it's
again?
just
like
repeating
it's
the same
really
shit like
redundant and
Rumpus
ridiculous.
does.
Yeah, and it's even worse than that.
You're
Dude,
doing
shut up.
Shout out to Retro Bill for the super chat. Thank you very much indeed.
Cherry picking with the laws of nature.
I'll ask him again. Let's
Well,
see if he does it or
you
gives
were
us word
exactly the
salad.
one doing that and not me.
Arwin, CG, you have claimed gas pressure can exist in an open system next to a lower pressure system. So I want to see that. Not word salad, not descriptions, a demonstration, please, of your fundy belief in a sky vacuum that rockets can travel through. Demonstrate that is possible. Don't point at the sky and what your priests have done that we're debunking. Prove you can have gas pressure without containment.
Sure. If you go to NASA right now...
So straight to the priests. I've just said, that's what we're debunking. That's what we're debunking. Are you dumb? Are you deaf? Are you dense? Are you dumb? No, don't go to the very thing we're debunking. We're saying they can't have rockets in space because space can't be real. Now, for it to be real, you'd need to be able to demonstrate gas pressure without a container. Now, don't go to NASA and tell me what they've done and point at the sky.
So you don't like the evidence. You don't like the evidence. That's what it is, Nathan.
Are you fucking dense? We're debunking it based on its violation of a law of nature. And you're saying that them violating a law of nature is proof they can violate the law of nature. No, dumb fuck. You want to laugh about this, dumb fuck? Yeah, you're dumb. Yeah, that's called circular reasoning. We say they can't possibly be travelling in spaceships in a vacuum because the gas would fill the space. And you say, I prove it. Look, they're travelling in spaceships. You circular reasoning using moron.
In spaceships.
Yeah, you're a circular reasoning using moron. You don't even realise that you're using circular reasoning. You don't use the rockets we say can't exist in a sky vacuum to prove that rockets can exist in a sky vacuum. You dumb moron.
Nathan, you don't
That's
get to
a George
just say,
Netanyahu laugh.
Circular reasoning. Stop talking and just answer me this.
You didn't like the evidence, and then you had
We're debunking the evidence because it violates a law of nature. You don't seem to be getting this. You keep saying that the evidence we're debunking is true because that's the evidence. That's called circular reasoning.
Well, if this is all this guy has left is using the word conspiracy and laughing afterwards, then he would have to say that he believes the government has never, ever conspired against its citizenry.
He's a statist fanatic madman.
I've removed him because he's literally laughing at you, Nathan.
Yeah, just it's a troll. Yeah. If we say, no, you can't be travelling through a sky vacuum in rockets because the gas would fill the space and we'd all be dead, and you say, no, the vacuum is proven by the very lie we're debunking, that's absolutely useless.
Yeah, you might as well just say, just look at the atmosphere. The proof is the atmosphere. Look, that's the proof of the sky vacuum. Go outside and look at it.
Yeah. We're
Same
debunking
shit.
the fact that NASA can't be there. And he says, look at pictures from NASA. They prove it. Oh, right, well, we'll zombify, walk aimlessly towards our TV sets, look at it and go, yeah, they've got it on a TV screen. Also, Superman's real.
You know, you even gave him the open system.
Narnia.
NASA believes in the closed system, but you even gave him both ways.
Yeah, they're never going to demonstrate gas pressure existing next to a vacuum or without a container, which is what Earth in space is claimed to be. That's a violation of a law of nature. It's the beginning and end of the argument.
And he was ridiculously accusing you of cherry picking with the laws of nature. You probably didn't even hear this. He's accusing you of cherry pickings with the laws of nature while you were you were the one actually not doing that, and he was doing it. It was so ridiculously hypocritical. It's total straw man.
Got a new guest. Hey,
Yes.
Darren. How you doing?
Hello.
Very good to have you.
Thank you. Been a long time trying to get joined.
So what's your story, Darren? I don't think you've ever joined before, have you?
I haven't, no. I used to be a Glober, and I'm believing more and more in Flat Earth, sort of day by day, video by video. I've got a few sort of burning questions that I need to sort of clarify and total convincing myself of a flat Earth, really.
Shoot, go ahead.
Number one, we're told that the sun's rays takes 8 minutes and 20 seconds to reach us. And I can sort of confirm this. I live in West Wales, and I stand upon a mountain, get a clear view of the sunrise. When I see the sunrise, the light doesn't actually hit my face for around 8 minutes and 20 seconds, and then I can actually, it's hit my face. So my question is if the sun and the moon is contained within a dome, how is that possible? Surely it would take seconds rather than minutes.
That's how do you conclude that it's taking that time for it to hit you? Because observing light is the light actually having reached you. That's how sensories work. So that doesn't make any sense. If there's a delay, you would be incapable of noticing it.
Right. So when I actually physically see the sun rising above the horizon,
then the sunlight's gone into your eye already, right? Feeling the heat from the sun isn't the same as seeing the light from the sun. You understand
that is
right?
refracted in the atmosphere, basically. Light, when it appears, it refracts in all directions. It scatters.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Never thought of it that way. Thought of it that way.
Fair enough. Next. What was the other one? You said you had several.
Can't remember now. I mean, I've done lots of experiments myself. I'm invested in a P1000, but I'm using a telescope at the moment down in West Wales. And again, I see the Irish ferry sail out sort of every day at 3 o'clock, and it disappears over the horizon. And when I get my telescope out, it's back there again. So yeah, I mean, I haven't actually managed to see Ireland as yet, which I think is about 30 something miles away. But the weather's so unpredictable down here. There's a lot of sort of sea spray and stuff, which obviously messes around with the observations. But it's I'm sort of 99.9% sure that it's flat. And it's just getting the word out, isn't it? That's the hardest part, really.
Have you observed any? Oh, sorry. Have you observed any interesting miraging effects?
Yes, exactly the same as what Ranty Flat Earth did the other weekend, where the bottom of the boat seemed to sort of disappear. The length of it seemed to stay the same, but the height of it just seemed to diminish.
Okay, would you like to present some of it on the show?
I haven't. I could do. Yeah. Like I say, I should in a couple of weeks. I should have my P1000. And I will get down to the beach and start doing some more filming, and then I'll be able to present something. Yet. Right. I don't have it yet. No.
Me neither. Please go to my Arwin's GoFundMe page to help me out. My P1000.
I might help you out.
Oh, really? Cool. Thanks.
Yeah, but I mean, I'm finding it hard trying to explain things to family, and they don't seem to get it. But I think people will eventually, but it's a slow process, and obviously it's very difficult for us to prove things. It's even harder to prove a whole Earth, which is why I'm going down the road of flat Earth, really.
Right. What do you think about the heavens, about the celestial bodies and all that? Have you ever considered them to be not physical?
Yes. Yeah. I mean, everything that comes out of NASA is fake as far as I'm concerned. I've looked through the telescope. I've seen Saturn. I've seen its rings. But the resolution is just unreal, really. I mean, it was to say that I'm not looking at something the size of a tennis ball, a few thousand miles away. It's exactly the same as if you're looking at a building, as far as you can see, a couple hundred miles away, probably with a telescope. The resolution is going to look abysmal. Exactly the same as when you're looking at the planets, really.
All right.
I would imagine that everything is just a light in the sky, like
right.
allegedly Dave says. You know, it's within the dome, the firmament.
But could you imagine, for example, that if you're standing on the Earth at night and looking at it with a telescope at some planet, for example, in the sky at a certain angle, you would see it, but then say you could somehow really quickly move directly towards it, the balloon or
Yeah.
hovering device.
Yeah.
Can you imagine that when you do that, it's very unlikely you're going to end up face to face with that planet?
And with that, I'll say if you are watching this on the Nathan Oakley premiering stream, then stay tuned, as there will be an after show to follow. However, if you're watching this live on Nathan Oakley 1980, this is where we bid you farewell. A massive thank you to all of you who hit the super chat today. Huge support. Thank you very much indeed. And of course, a massive thank you to all of you who tuned in live. Massive thanks to all of the debating panel for making this debate possible. If you need to keep yourself occupied after this stream is over, then go to nathanoakley.com and check out the Flat Earth Debate Forum to keep up to date with the community debate. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I'll see you all in the next video.
Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!
Hell yeah, terrible.
That
No,
guy was.
I mean, I take things as I find it, and you know, I've thought for years. My mother thought for years that we lived on a flat Earth. You know, she always thought that she'd never go on a boat because she always thought that she'd fall off the edge, and was very surprised when she started learning that the Earth was a ball. And you know, I've hit her with the flat Earth, and the more I learn, the more I pass on to her, and the more and more she believes it.
Oh, that's
So-
really nice. That's
It's
nice.
far.
I
Yeah,
always find it funny. I always find it funny how people find out about flat Earth and then they get scared about falling off an edge or something. But yet in the heliocentric model, any moment we can get hit by some giant meteor or asteroid or something. But life just goes on every day. Nobody pays attention.
Yeah,
Nobody cares. It's hilarious to me.
And Chocolate, don't forget about the potential that some star might go supernova and have like all these gravitational waves that'll take the equilibrium out of the orbits of our solar system, causing
Oh,
other planets to
no.
crash into us.
Yeah,
That
might
could happen
throw-
too, you know. They've been warning for that
Exactly.
about 30 years, that could at some point just happen.
So, question back to the new caller: when you referenced your family and friends, do they claim that you're doing a conspiracy or being fooled by someone pulling a conspiracy on you?
No. I mean, she does classify me as a conspiracy theorist, mainly because of you know, over here in the UK, 7/7 bombings, you know, 9/11. When you look at the research, and you know, you look at like Dr. Judy Wood's
Yes.
book, you know, I've been into sort of conspiracies for years and years and years. Obviously, the age of internet has helped dramatically. But then again, there's a lot of misinformation out there. I think it's Simon Dan. Oh, what an absolute pillar!
Yeah.
I just
And a
love
coward, and he's a coward.
absolute coward. He just turns around and he stops after sort of Nathan had said something, and then he said, "Oh yeah, really? Is that the case?" And then he gives you this, you know, couple of words that completely debunks it all. And I'm like, well, if you're going to do it scientifically, do it scientifically. Don't just sort of put some random shit in someone's head and expect them to believe it, because you know, in theory, in
Right.
what he does is detrimental to globe Earth, just because of the rubbish that he comes out with. You know, when you're listening to programs like this with Nathan and you guys, and you're actually talking about it scientifically, and you're arguing about things scientifically, you know, and he just comes up with these stupid, corny little answers with no real meaning, no real definition to them.
Well-
You know, who are you going to watch?
Well,
I like
for some people, that's good enough.
Yeah.
Look, the problem with science is it's put out as a cultural thing on the wider audience. But yeah, the problem is the majority of people are kind of dumb.
Yeah.
Not absolutely retarded, although the ones that are really stand out. But
Yeah.
because of this, people will just think science. Yeah, oh, this looks really sciencey. You
Yeah.
know, they will have
Owen,
a feel
I
for it,
would
but
agree
they
with
won't
you.
get it when you really explain it. And that's what Simon Dan is trying to catch. He's fishing for that crowd.
Yes. Yeah.
I would agree. I would
And there's a
say a
lot of
lot
them.
of people would just need their little 5-minute debunk, and they're good.
Yeah.
They could just keep going on with their day, and they don't have to think about it much. Oh, look, flowers debunked again. I can go back to my coffee.
A daily,
You know,
a daily globe injection.
exactly.
Oh, I need
There you
Yeah.
to
go.
go. Oh, oh.
But Nathan, whilst I'm actually on here, and I'm so glad that I did actually get on here, thanks for what you do, because it is amazing. You are, all of you, really sort of waking up the community to what is around us. And it takes people like you to change the opinions of people. And I'm grateful for one. I've been following you for about 14 months now. And yeah, you've completely changed the way I think about things. Nothing is as we see it. And we're being lied to daily. And it's just so refreshing. I'm here waiting outside the school to pick up my daughter. And I'm here for about an hour before, and religiously every day I listen to you. And I just want to thank you, really, because it helps me come to terms with what we've been lied about.
If I may ask, how old is your daughter? And have you ever talked about it with
My
her?
my daughter is 9, and she believes in a flat Earth. In fact, so much so that whilst they were doing their last topic, she raised some questions with her teacher, and her teacher said, "Oh, no, 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 you're wrong. This is what the situation is," and completely sort of punched her in the face, really. And I came home and watched some of Nathan's videos. And again, when you talk about it scientifically to her, she believes me, not the teachers. All of the teachers come out with exactly the same spiel every day. And when she watches, and not just Nathan's channel, but I follow a guy in the UK called Richard Hall, richplanet.net. All about conspiracies and all the rest of it. And yeah, I think she's 9 years old. Should she be taught these kind of things? But at her age, her brain's like a little sponge. She absorbs it and she takes it in, and she's using that knowledge in school to question what the teachers are saying. And to me, that's final outcome. That's
Awesome.
perfect.
Talking of Richard
Kudos
D.
to the fact that she's 9 and she's already challenged the teacher.
Talking of
Yeah.
Richard
Because that
D.
was very much like me. So kudos to that.
My parents technically, in a way, kind of did that to me, but from an older period.
So
And I
talking of
was
Right.
constantly challenging my teacher, so it's really good to hear that that's still happening.
Talking of
Yeah.
Rich D. Hall, so Richard D. Hall has recently done a tour around Britain,
Yes.
and I don't read the news, I don't have TV, but I did go to my local newsagents and see in the transparent newspaper holders that they'd got a news
Yeah.
story out about Madeleine McCann, and
Yes.
I would say his two best pieces. One of them's Madeleine McCann, and the other one is what's that news reporter from Crime Watch called? I've forgotten her name. Jill Dando.
Oh, Jill Dando.
So those are his two best pieces, and it surprised me because obviously he's going to be talking about definitely one or other of those on every single tour date. So I just thought it was quite amusing when I saw more stuff about the Madeleine McCann case come out, front page news while he's on a tour.
Yeah.
No coincidence there whatsoever.
Yeah, exactly. And he did actually mention that in the tour. Actually, he part of the tour, which I went to see up in Merthyr Tydfil probably about a month and a half ago, he was talking about the Manchester bombings, and going through loads and loads of evidence that that he'd managed to obtain. And He uploaded that to YouTube on Sunday, and within 2 hours, YouTube had removed it.
Yeah.
Oh, and that's just a conspiracy theory.
Well, I think it is.
I think it's one of the things.
Yeah,
it's one of the things you
exactly.
don't mess with on YouTube. So you can get away with quite a lot on YouTube, but if you start messing with the mainstream narrative, they just shut you down.
Yeah, that's it.
Well,
I mean, there's other video sharing platforms out there, but they're not as nice and as easy to sort of navigate and find what you want in. But I mean, the biggest thing I've noticed with YouTube recently is, if I type in flat Earth, or I type in 9/11 conspiracy, or fake Earth, or fake moon, whatever, fake NASA, the first 100 entries that come up are all things that either debunk it or basically put it down. Until you go through probably 100 entries, then you start to find other videos that might be there to prove a flat Earth, or did we land on the moon? I mean, anybody can do it. You just type into Google, "Did we land on the moon?" and it'll all be mainstream media. It'll be BBC, it'll be the Telegraph, it'll be the Independent. All of the news companies will be all of the top listings. Whereas 6 months ago, if you did flat Earth, if I'd have uploaded a video that day of flat Earth, it would have been at the top. So they're trying to hide everything and censor everything.
You're right. And even if you get the actual videos that you want, you'll get a little info box underneath from like the Encyclopedia Britannica telling you, yes, the Apollo mission is real.
Yes.
Don't worry about what's going on in this video above. Everything that you're hearing is wrong. It's actually real.
And it became
it's nonsense.
That's it.
As soon as it became sort of
and
part
the thing
of the
is, people will believe it. That's how gullible we are, really.
As soon as it became part of the pop culture, lots of mainstream YouTubers, or not mainstream YouTubers, bigger YouTubers, say 100,000 subscribers plus, started making videos about it. And that came after PewDiePie. So PewDiePie made a video about it, and then it seemed like everyone else did it. Now, I try and find new YouTube content, new good YouTubers, and it seems like the last couple of times I've done it, I've come across someone I've thought is good, and then you get, I don't know, 20 or 30 videos into their repertoire, and find that they've done an anti-flat Earth video, and Richard D. Hall's no exception. So Richard D. Hall did an anti-flat Earth video, which I just happened to find. I don't know if you can keep yourself on mute when you're not talking, Darren. You're causing loads of background noise. But yeah, so basically he did an anti-flat Earth video, which I came across, and I'm like, crap arguments, really poor, but part of his investigations have been around things like UFOs, and you go, right, well, your inquiries are kind of hinged around the idea of Earth being a sphere and there being aliens coming from other worlds and stuff. So he's kind of rooted in the narrative, a bit like David Icke in that regard. It's part of his conspiracy to begin with. And another one that... Say again?
Heliopegged. I heard that if you take your YouTube search and put it on a different search engine like DuckDuckGo, it actually goes and shows you the YouTube videos in the order of popularity. Whereas if you go to Google and go to YouTube, they of course censor it. So try a different search engine and see if you get that, because I've seen that demonstrated on some channels.
Well, I was going to say the reason that they're all at the top is because of people like Richard Hall, and the other one I was going to mention, George Rockall Schmidt, who does film reviews. So I'm a bit, before Flat Earth, I was very into movies, and I thought, maybe try and get some semblance of normality back and get back into my movies. So I started watching a few movie reviewers. He was one of them. And like with Richard D. Hall, sure enough, 20 or 30 movie reviews in, suddenly there's, why do people believe the Earth is flat? And a load of crap arguments to go with it. You're like, oh, God. How many big flat...
Well, my hat's off to the new caller for investing money in the P900 and taking time and regaining his freedom and seeking truth. Hats off to you. Come back again.
Yeah, cool, buddy. Cool. Yeah, will do. Thank you.
Sleeping Warrior's been absolutely on fire at the moment. While you were giving us all those compliments, I took him as being directed towards Sleeping Warrior. He's the one on fire at the moment.
Is Anthony
By
here?
the way, where are you? Are you in Australia?
Who, me?
Yeah.
No. West Wales in the United Kingdom.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Are you from Bristol, though?
Your accent now.
Very close. I was from Bath. I moved down to West Wales 22 years ago.
Because you
That's
definitely got a
beautiful.
bit of a Bristolian twang.
Oh, definitely, yeah.
That's beautiful. Really pretty.
You know, if I was in Bath, I'd have punched you in the face then, because that's one of the biggest insults.
Oh,
you can
really?
give
Is it?
a Bathonian, yeah.
Bathonian.
We're much
Never heard of that before.
Bathonian. That's what we're called. Yeah, much posher in Bath.
It's like if you're from Salford or Manchester, if you get them wrong and you say, you're from Salford. You're from Manchester. No, I'm from Salford. Isn't that part of Manchester? No, it's its own city in its own right. It's got its own cathedral. Oh, I'm very sorry. No offence intended.
All right. Anyway, guys, I'm going to say my farewells because my daughter's just got in the car and we need to head home.
Cool.
Thanks for joining, Darren.
Hey.
Pleasure to meet you.
Yeah. Lovely.
Thanks for
You
watching,
take care.
man. Come back again, brother.
We'll do. Take care, guys.
See you later.
Hey, Anthony.
Bye-bye.
Hey, Chris.
I got something for you. So,
Is it a bit of density?
yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, it's about density, and it's something I couldn't answer. I was talking to Sean. What's his name? Hufford.
Oh, audio guy. Ask him how
Yeah,
he's getting
audio
on
guy.
with his investigation about the Geo Whisperer. Go on.
And so, anyways, we were going back and forth on the density is a force or not, and kind of a thing. And the way I described it was, I said, well, I can describe weight as my mass over my volume is my weight. And he kind of said through some.
The minute you say weight, that includes a little G in the maths.
Right. So then he kind of threw something my way that I didn't really. And by the way, this is all sort of off the cuff, right? And I didn't really have a good response, or I didn't have time to think about it. So he said, if you take let's say you take a 5x5 box and you place it in water, it will, let's just say for sake of argument, it's less dense in the water and it will float, right? If you take another 5x5 box and put it on top of the original 5x5 box, the sum of the boxes will move down in the water because of the overall additional weight, but the density hasn't changed because while you're increasing the mass, you're also increasing the volume at the same rate. You're doubling both. The density doesn't change, but the box moves.
The density doesn't change, but the box moves. Yeah, but you're adding more mass.
So that's supposed to be some type of a
you're increasing the
debunk.
volume.
But isn't density defined as mass per volume?
Right, you're adding more mass, but you're also increasing the volume at the same rate.
Yeah, but the surface area that's pressing on the water remains the same.
So hang on, run this by me again. So it was a box on top of a box on top of water.
Correct.
And the point is that the lower box gets pushed further into the water. Is that the point?
Right. Yeah.
So what's the bit that you needed to think about?
Well, because the density, if you multiply both, let's just say it's the same box, same size and everything, right? If you multiply the mass by 2 and the volume by 2, you get the density equals the same amount.
No.
Yeah,
Because the combined whole thing still has maneuverability issues. So the top boxes are not going to move horizontally naturally. So it's going to be one combined thing opposing whatever it's floating in.
Oh, hang on.
Including the atmosphere. So it will displace.
There's another point though, isn't there? So the box on top of the box, you're increasing the mass, but you're also increasing the volume. But the thing that's not changing is the medium it's in.
Exactly. It's another way of saying it. Yeah.
I'm not sure that I get the point that Sean's trying to make. Maybe I'm not getting it, or maybe it needs to be re-explained.
Maybe I'm wrong, but it sounds to me like they're trying to say that it's the weight that causes it to move as opposed to the density.
Right.
So as to point more towards gravity instead of saying, because you didn't change the density of the bottom box, right? And you didn't change the density of the medium, but you putting another box on top of that other box caused it to go down, right? Now they're going to say it's because of the weight, while the density didn't change. That it's like they're trying to debunk density with weight.
So let's look at what's actually happening. You got the mass increases, the volume increases, and I don't really see what I can't distinguish the difference between weight and mass in this case. I don't see what
It's
saying that the
the
density is the
surface
same.
area. So you've got the same amount of surface area. You can keep piling stuff on and on top of it. Just because that one single box with that surface area will float doesn't mean that if you increase the weight of it, if you want to put it in their terminology, the surface area is still exactly the same. So you've got a greater concentration on the same surface area. To mention the fact that you've got to actually put the energy in the first place into putting that onto the box, or putting the box out into the water in the first place.
It seems like a red herring, though, in any event, because how does that affect? Was this in relation to
not
the
a red herring?
egg?
It's a straw man. It seems related.
Was this in relation to the egg and the salt experiment?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, they were asking me a bunch of questions, and basically, that's the only one that really kind of quote unquote stumped me. Is that if the density of the boxes aren't changing because you're doubling both mass and the volume, then why do the combined boxes move down in the water?
Because it's a relative position, isn't it? Relative to its increased mass and its increased volume, you change in the actual size and the actual mass. So as a ratio, you could argue it's not changed. But the physical dimensions have. You have added more mass. You have added different volume or an increase in the volume. So you're adding mass. You're adding mass. You're adding volume. Unless I'm missing something, I don't really get what the problem is.
Yeah, the force is measured over the area, so it's the bottom surface that's pressing on the water that stays exactly the same. You're not laying them side by side and increasing the surface area as you increase the amount of boxes. You're only increasing them vertically. So the surface area is going to stay the same. Well, the force over that surface area will increase, and therefore it will displace more water.
Right. Yeah, like I guess a counterexample would be if you put the boxes side by side, then nothing happens. Like the same amount of water will
You're measuring
the
force over a given area, aren't you? Well, the area that you're measuring it over stays the same. As you increase the amount of boxes, the force over that area will increase.
Yeah, I think the way they got me was by saying the density doesn't change, but there is a change, right? You're right. I mean, you're doubling the size of the object that is on top of the same surface area of the water. So
exactly,
like,
yeah, you're doubling the size and you're doubling the mass.
Yeah, doubling the mass.
I guess what they're trying to say is that it's doubling of the mass and it's doubling of the volume, so the density should be the same. But they're ignoring the fact that the mass has physically changed and the volume is physically changed. So I don't really see how it would be the same.
It's sort of a mathematical
like they'll half-handedly point to gravity. Oh, look, there's more mass, so that's what causes it to go down.
I think you'd have I don't know whether it'd be right to say that the density hasn't changed, because the density is doubled, hasn't it? And the volume is doubled.
No, the force over the area that's on the water increases.
Right, the area, because the area hasn't also increased.
Precisely.
That's
so
really
how much force over a certain area will that wood provide? Well, as soon as you start stacking boxes over, that changes because the area hasn't increased, only the amount of boxes.
Yeah, so the mass is still on that focal that area that is thing that's making the boxes float, right?
Yeah, given a certain amount of area versus its density, it will float. Well,
I guess the equal and opposite argument would be, well, if you made the ship no longer a ship and made it a block of steel, then the density hasn't changed, but the shape of it has. Why does it sink? Is that the opposite argument?
No, well, that's your argument. So you're saying it's purely based on the density, but it's obviously there's more to it. If you've got a given surface area and you can penetrate that area with a greater force over a certain amount of area, but the amount of, let's call it buoyancy for the ease of explanation, is based on the amount it won't displace or will displace given a certain amount of area. Well, if you keep the area the same and increase the amount that's on top of it, you've increased the force over that area that's on the water, forcing it down. The same could be applied with the same exact box if you squashed it into a ball. In other words, you made the area smaller. Well, then it wouldn't suddenly float as efficiently as it did. It would drop down, and you wouldn't have to change anything, just the shape of it, so that you had a lesser surface area over the water.
Wouldn't this mimic an oil tanker that's empty, and then when it goes to its port and fills up with oil, it's...
Yes. No, you're not making it less dense.
Yeah, but when you add the oil tank with all the oil, you're not increasing the volume, are you? The volume's remaining the same, but the mass is increasing.
No, well, you're doing. It's like you pushing on it. You've got to do work. Well, you've actually got to use the energy to pump the oil into the boat to cause it to displace more water, right? That's work that's being done. It doesn't just suddenly displace more water for no reason. It's in equilibrium until something changes. Well, you adding more to the boat makes it displace more water.
Exactly like the box. You put a box on top of another box, it's going to displace the water.
The parallel that I'm getting in my mind is when Nathan says, if you've got a 10-foot wall a mile away, and then you've got it at 2 miles away, but then you put that same 10-foot wall 10 miles away and you can't see it anymore. If you then build a skyscraper on top of that 10-foot wall, you can then see the skyscraper, but you still can't see the 10-foot wall. That's what this is reminding me of, because it's like stacking something on top of it and pushing it down is kind of like pushing it further and further away, and then you add something on top of it so you can see it again.
I actually thought the same thing. I was like, are they trying to use Nathan's little argument in a different way? That's what I thought too.
It seems similar, doesn't it?
Well, on the boat, it's called a draft line. So obviously, the more weight, it's going to displace more, and it's going to be riding lower on its draft line.
I thought it was called the plimsoll line.
That's right.
Not for me.
What's the difference between a plimsoll line and a draft line?
An American saying it or a British saying it?
Oh, that's an Americanism, right? The plimsoll line is a marking on a ship's side showing the limit of legal submersion when loaded with cargo under various sea conditions.
Anthony.
Yeah.
What do you think about so I told them that, so weight is, they say weight is mass times gravity. You can get weight if you know the density and the volume of an object. So basically density, or if you have the mass, basically you have the mass or volume, or if you have the mass, volume, or density, if you have two of those three, you can get the other, right? So you can get the weight. So if you know something's density and you know its volume, you can get its weight. And there's no little g involved.
But if you get its weight, little g is involved.
Only because they've hijacked the word and used it how they want to.
Right.
If
I said my weight is my mass over my particular volume that I take up, that's my weight.
Yeah, but weight's just a convention.
Yeah, weight's a mathematical sum. It's not
exactly.
It's a deduction.
Well, it's arithmetic. So what
it's a deduction in a specific setting.
The problem is the word weight is we use the word weight colloquially, but the minute you say it within physics, they immediately lynch it to mathematical equation with little g in it. So at that point, that's where the word weight has been hijacked. So I try and avoid using the word weight so that I say the word mass instead, because they mean the same thing. They basically mean the same thing. It's only in maths where there's a difference. So for me, it's like, don't use the word weight if you can avoid it, because it basically begs the question for them.
I think weight is the pressure of a solid. So you can use weight all you want and just be like, it's a pressure of a solid, because we know gases have pressure. We know liquids have pressure. Do solids have pressure? Just ask them that.
Hey, if you remember in the 60s, well, even nowadays, they take Volkswagen and make dune buggies out of them with the big tires. Well, when they drive them to the sand dunes, the air in the tire is at higher PSI because it's on the road surface. When they get to the sand dunes, they take a lot of air out, so the tire is very bouncy and soft, so it could go over the sand easily. If it was still the higher PSI, it would sink. Does that help at all?
No, I think that's to increase the size of the footprint that the tire makes, so that it sits on top of the sand
Yeah,
rather than
that's
dig
what
into it.
Yeah, that's what I
Right,
said.
but the weight of the car.
That's what I said. It's over the given area. So what he's saying is that yeah, very good example. Well done, 10th man. So what he's saying is they let the tyre pressure down and it increases the surface area of the tyre, meaning it's less likely to sink into the sand. If you increase the tyre pressure, making the bottoms of the tyres rounded, then there's less surface area and more likely to sink into the sand.
That way, when it's soft, it's more like crawling over the sand rather than rolling over it.
Well, you're getting more traction. You got more surface area on the sand itself. You get more
Exactly.
traction.
It's all about the surface area.
So therefore, is it the case then that this is a different question and a different set of, I don't know, explanations, maths, whatever,
Well, you're
to
measuring
explain it?
the force over a given area when you measure how much water it will displace. So if you increase the amount of boxes, you're going to increase the force over that exact same. This is what I said. I'm just repeating myself.
It's like a lifeboat that's made for 12 people. If you stick 36 people, it's probably going to sink.
To me, it's just like this is them not liking your density as a force thing, and they're trying to kind of just debunk it because they can't come up with their own force, so they got to assert one.
You should check out, I think it's called Gem Panda's Sunday Night Roast or something. Spurs sent it to me this like earlier on the Savo, and I watched it. And basically, if you watch it, right, if they were sat here and they said the things to me face that they said in that Sunday Night Roast, I would say I would respond to each and every single one of them. But because I'm not there, I'm not able to respond. They've got this one-way dialect, which basically they try saying things like, well, why did he use a parts per million counter when he's not measuring this, that, and the other? And the answer is because they said he should have used a hydrometer. Which, yeah, if you're a baller, that's what you'll argue, because a hydrometer is special to gravity. It's been calibrated to gravity to be super accurate. However, if we're tested to see whether a gravity's got any effect on this thing at all, you're not going to use something that is calibrated to gravity, because you don't want to be testing for gravity. You want to see if you can see if gravity is doing anything. So what they were criticizing, for example, and this is just one, was that it wasn't accurate enough to do the job that I was wanting to do, because it tests conductivity. But what the ppm meter actually does is it gives you a particular, it counts the particles per million, right? It doesn't matter how it does it. It doesn't matter whether it uses conductivity or counting flowers. It does it in a way that gives you a relative number. Now, it doesn't matter how that number's calculated, because you're using the same process each time. Now, the way Jeremy had snipped the bits that he wanted to show compared to the bits that he didn't want to show, he showed me measuring the tap water to get a baseline. He then showed me measuring the salt water solution before I put the egg in it, to give me my variable. And then he snipped off the bit where I measured it afterwards to prove the 10 ppm, the 10 parts per million that changed. Now, I don't think he did that intentionally, but what then happened was somebody said, yeah, I noticed he didn't measure, I think it was curved. I noticed he didn't measure the water afterwards to show us what the difference was. Now, I actually did do that in the video, but Jeremy didn't correct the position and say, well, actually he did. I snipped it out. He allowed them to all think that I didn't show that afterwards, but that was the reason why I showed it, to show that the density had changed. So it's like, on the one hand, they have this one-way circle jerk where they could come in and join right now, and they could ask all the questions that they want, and they could challenge anything and everything that they want, but they won't. They'll do it while I'm not there, and then they'll just add answers that based on their own ignorance to try and make it look in some way discredited. So another example where Jeremy said, I found it a little bit creepy that he was doing this. And I'm like, oh, really? I said, do you not remember how you presented yourself in some of your videos? He sounds like one of the most creepiest blokes ever, but he doesn't like the fact that I'm saying that I did this by changing the salt. He thinks that in some way that's creepy. And I'm like, I'm reasserting the position that the independent variable is controlled by the operator, the experimenter. I've got to control that. And I did. And that's what scientific method states.
So that's what he's got. You're creepy.
Yeah.
You caused an effect, but you're creepy.
When I'm reasserting, I caused it by doing that manipulation. I'm doing it not to be creepy. I'm doing it because
sounds like
that's
some spooky action.
That's what scientific method requires. It requires the observer or the experimenter to do the actual manipulation to prove the cause and effect relationship. And that's what I did. So I'm emphasizing that for good reason, that he's interpreted or twisted it to make it sound like I'm being creepy. But the reality is, I'm doing it because that's the scientific method. That's what you're supposed to do in a scientific experiment. Now, if you're going to try and debunk it, guess what you've got to do, guys? You've got to go and get a pint glass with some water, a little bit of salt, and an egg, and then do something where I repeat what I did and get a different result. That's debunking it. Now, you're not going to get a different result. The egg will do the same thing for you if you do the same thing that I did. But explaining stuff away with dick holding isn't going to debunk anything. It's just trying to pollute waters. That is basically, I've showed that I changed the density of that liquid and the egg moved. Now, if Newton said an accelerating mass is a force, then there must be a force there, mustn't there? But you guys tell us that the relative density is not a force. Only weight is a force. Well, that's not consistent with what that video shows, is it? Because I didn't add weight. I just changed the mass of the liquid. So,
Riley, I got a question for you.
Go.
When are you going to get your own chicken?
I don't.
You need one, and then you can actually experiment with it by giving it like higher density diets and see if the eggs have higher density. It could be very interesting to experiment with. Seriously. And hey, it's your own chicken if you love it, and you eat the eggs. It's actually really good for you, much better than supermarket eggs.
I know, but
so why not? If you have a little place you can keep it.
I have 8 chickens. I can weigh 8 different eggs from 8 different chickens and tell you if I get 8 different density buoyancy readings in water.
Well, that was the weird thing. I've got like a tray of 16 eggs, right? And it was the day that we'd gone shopping, so we had loads of them in. And basically, all the eggs sank. So that told me that the water's not as close to the density of the egg as what I expected. I thought there'd be 2 or 3 of them that might float.
No.
2 or 3 of them might sit somewhere in the middle.
They only float if they're off.
It means the eggs are high protein and low fat.
That means they're fresh. If they float, it means they've got air in them and they're off.
Gas,
so
yeah.
It's one of the things that I will typically do to check if an egg's fresh or not. It's just stick it in a glass of water, and if it floats, I'm chucking it out.
Well, they all sank, so...
Well, that means they're all fresh. That just means they're all fresh.
To be fair, the best criticism I got, the most constructive criticism I got, was someone that said, if you'd have poured the salt in a little bit slower and from a lower height, do you think that it would have made a difference? And the answer is no. I think the egg would have done the exact same thing. But what he was suggesting was that the turbulent water was created by the salt being dropped into it from that height at that speed. And I thought that's a valid point. I thought and that's the only valid point I've really heard. Everybody else has just been like, no, I don't accept that. No, we'll infer gravity. We'll infer gravity. Gravity explains this. Yeah, we'll infer gravity. And I'm like, dickhead, you can't infer gravity. The cause was the salt. That was the independent variable. If you want to infer gravity, that's pseudoscience. And they just literally ignore it. They're like, no, we're inferring gravity. And I'm like, okay, that's fine. You can infer gravity, pseudosciences. And science deniers.
No, Riley, you manipulated the force.
Yeah.
All our lives, we've been told gravity. So now everything's looking to find rest at its equilibrium. The leaf in the bottom of the ocean wants to rise up when it's detached. The leaf on top of a tree, for whatever reason, when it's severed, wants to fall down and find. Everything's looking for its equilibrium. The egg in the water without salt, the egg in the water with salt. They are just like trying to prove gravity so hard when these little things that we've shown and talked about show that everything's looking for equilibrium.
They simply try to presuppose a cause to the displacement and the relative density effect that is provable.
But that was the point.
Riley's found these couple of videos of people just talking about density, not mentioning gravity at all. Like that video you just put up today.
Density.
The guy says the answer is density.
Density.
But that wasn't just him, though. There was the female in the 90s, that older video from a couple of videos back.
Yeah, I saw
she
it.
said the same thing.
The one with the
and she said
balloon.
they have a problem with this, but everybody forgets about density, but they've got a problem with remembering this, or words to that effect. And the point she's making seems to be, we were told this when we were younger, but we've also been told gravity. We've remembered the gravity bit, but this is actually what's going on, and no one remembers it. And it's that to me is a tip of the cap to brainwashing.
Well, I got a theory for that, a very directly supporting theory. Why that is, and that is, kids usually when they go to school and learn all this stuff and science, they might have really good teachers, but many of them will simply be distracted by their hobbies and the language that is used in those hobbies. So everyone will be watching science fiction series because they were very in and everything, unless you like really don't like that. So then the language become normalized because of that, instead of scientific, according to the good teachers, because it just doesn't rub off on the long run.
I think it's
I've got a
simpler
question for
than
somebody.
that.
People remember
Somebody.
fun things better than disciplined things, usually.
I got a question. I've just been thinking about this, just listening, trying to understand density and all this stuff, trying to look at the definitions. Okay, if I take a 12 pounds of water, okay, of liquid water, and then I take 12 pounds of of water that's ice, which is more dense?
The liquid, because the ice has got more volume, because water expands when it gets cold.
Yep.
Okay, right. So it floats. So because I was reading the definition, if you read the definition in, so I can find it here real quick. Bear with me. The straight up definition of density is the degree of compactness of a substance. Then in physics, it says degree of consistency measured by the quantity of mass per unit volume. So I guess what you're saying is because ice expands, it increases its volume. So that's why it's less dense than the water.
I think there used to be a guy that came into the debates that called it volumetric mass. And I think that is probably the word we're looking for. That is even better.
What's that?
What's mass?
Jimbo, or what was his name again? I don't know.
I think it might have been Truth Seeker, was it?
No.
I thought it was right the hand.
I do remember the guy.
I think it was called Jimbo.
Yeah,
I'm not
I
sure.
think that might have been him.
Oh yeah, it was Jimbo. Yeah, you're right.
What happened to that guy?
And the same question came up then. What's mass?
It's the aspect of matter that enables it to be displaced by forces.
I'm looking at the word. I looked it up. It says a coherent, typically large body of matter with no defined shape, or a large number of people. Of course, that's mass of people. Large number of people or objects crowded together. Adjective is relating to or done by affecting large numbers of people or things. Verb, assembling or caused by a symbol unto a
It
mass
is
or
the
as a one
combined
body.
relative density. So like a Zeppelin is not just the gas, it's also the sheet of the balloon, and it is everything hanging beneath it. And it combined is the volumetric mass, which is an average relative density which will find its equilibrium within the surrounding container.
I want to say that, like, that definition of mass, I said this before, it sounds like an adjective. Like, you can't have just mass. Mass of what? The noun is not mass. Mass is is an adjective of something. That's I know it's stated as a noun. I know it's even used like vernacularly, but it's describing
mass. This is volumetric mass. It's one thing.
No, it's got mass of what? You cannot have mass. You need mass of something.
It's not mass, it's volumetric mass.
Of what?
Of an object.
You need the object to have the mass of. So mass is a description of the volume of an object.
That's volume.
That's something else.
But I'm saying in the terms they're using it, it's nothing but a description of an object. It's a mass of an object. It's an object of an object. It's basically it's rhetoric. It's doublespeak.
And with that, I'm going to say a huge, massive, enormous thank you to all of you who joined us in the Nathan Oakley premiering stream, for tuning in, smashing the super chat, hopefully, liking, commenting, subscribing, sharing, and all that good stuff. If you need to keep yourself occupied after the stream is over, then go to nathanoakley.com and check out the Flat Earth Debate Forum. Also, a massive thank you to all of today's debating panel for making this after show possible. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I'll see you all in the next video.
Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!